We've all seen them and we've all heard them. Emergency vehicles. Whether you're on the highway, sitting at home, or even just going for a stroll outside, we've probably seen or heard them at some point in our life. And nearly every single day, we've seen or at least heard coming from police vehicles, fire departments, ambulances, hell, even just standard emergency vehicles or safety vehicles being utilized on racetracks. These vehicles all have a purpose, and it's all to rescue you. But why and how are they going to change for the future? Well, that's one thing AutoLooks is going to take a look at today. Welcome back to the AutoLooks podcast. I'm your host, as always, the doctor to the automotive industry, Mr. Everett J, coming to you from our main website at AutoLooks.net. If you haven't been there, stop by, check it out, read some of our ratings, and check out some of the corporate links websites on the AutoLooks.net website. The AutoLooks podcast has been brought to you by Ecom Entertainment Group and distributed by Podbeam.com. If you'd like to get in touch with Everett J or the AutoLooks team, please email us at email@AutoLooks.net. So like I talked about in the beginning, emergency vehicles. Every single day we hear, see, or even interact with them in some shape or form. But emergency vehicles are changing. And hell, we've all seen it from even in my point of life. I've seen fire trucks go from red to yellow back to red. I've seen police cars go from massive Chevy Caprices and Dodge Diplomats in the 80s to rear-wheel drive Chargers and Ford Tauruses in the 2000s to now all-wheel drive Ford Explorers, Dodge Durangos, hell, even Ford F-150s and GMC Sierras as police vehicles. It's changed over the years, and the way we rescue people is changing for the future as well. You've probably all seen or heard about it. There's so many tracks in the U.S. where a lot of, let's just say, idiots buy a Jeep and think they can go off-roading. All of a sudden they get stuck out in the middle of the bush. They roll down the side of a hill, they blow a tire, crack an axle, or something else, and we gotta go in and get them. As of right now, depending on where they are, we can use emergency vehicles to get in there to rescue people. Hell, four-wheel drive police vehicles to get in there. Helicopters to get you out. If it's a fire in the bush, we have off-road fire trucks for specific markets. Hell, even bush planes. Hell, I know I live, not that far away from an airport that has on-call bush planes for the Ministry of Natural Resources, or M&R, in Canada. Every day while I'm at work, I live along a main route that fire trucks go down. Any small little fire or emergency set-off at the mining complex just down the road from me brings fire department vehicles there. So I hear them, I see them. But not all these vehicles can get into all these small, tight locations. I had an uncle who fell underground over 100 feet, plus down a hole. Basically, he fell down a shaft. They could hardly even see him. And to get to him, it took 4 ladders to get down there. In today's market, doing the same job, he would have been tied off to the ceiling and been strapped to a harness. And in the future, we're now seeing more drone technology enter the field of rescue vehicles. But that's not all we're seeing. Land Rover a few years ago had their emergency response vehicle. I don't know if you've ever seen this thing, but this was a Land Rover Discovery set up for emergency rescue out in the Scottish Highlands. So people go hiking out in the Highlands all the time and get trapped out in the bush. They're all trying to make these great treks. They think, oh, it's just a lush green hill with barely any trees. We won't have any trouble getting up there. And these little fuckers get lost in the bush. Well, their fire department has to go out and rescue them. And if you've ever had to sit through Fireman Sam with your kids, you understand that, they got all kinds of different ways of getting people, in some cases, the stupid annoying kid, Norman, out of the shit he's created. They bring in the helicopters. They have the large ladder trucks. They got the off-road vehicles. And now we're utilizing drone technology. Now this Land Rover Discovery emergency response vehicle has a drone on top of it. Being a 4-wheel drive vehicle that can go way out in the bush is amazing. That's what we all need. Hell, you go out into Northern California regions. Hell, even out to Utah, where everybody goes out to these amazing off-road trails and gets stuck and falls and breaks and down. And they got these big Broncos from the police and the rangers that come out to get you. They know what they have to go into, so they get vehicles that have to get there. But how will that change in the future? Our world's getting more and more built up, so there's a lot less space now than there was 100 years ago between each city. So getting to people might be a little bit easier, but in not at all contexts, because now there are more people that are willing to travel even further into the bush to get away from what they see. And these are people willing to use a concept vehicle that Honda developed a few years back called the Honda Rugged Open Air Vehicle. A side-by-side quad, essentially a Honda Ridgeline with no body paneling on it is the context of this, an oversized side-by-side. Well, this thing gets trapped way out in the bush. How you can get to it? This Land Rover Discovery emergency response vehicle with a drone is similar to that of how Paw Patrol, if you didn't know this, Paw Patrol is actually a Canadian show coming from Canada. Pretty cool little information. And all their toys are coming through a dedicated Canadian manufacturer known as Spin Master out of Toronto, Ontario. A little bit of tidbit information about that. But let's move on from there. If you've ever watched that show, you see Chase, and he has a drone on his emergency response vehicle. Yeah, his little off-road doghouse police vehicle will go way out in the middle of the bush. But when he gets into tight situations where he's trying to get somebody off a cliff, he has to use his drone to find out where they are. This drone has a magic eye on it, which can be utilized to track down the individuals out in the middle of the bush. From there, he has a net attached to it, which you can utilize to capture somebody that's gotten away, or to set up a net for in case somebody falls, bringing in somebody else. Sky, a little pink dog that actually looks like my dog, it's kind of funny, I'm not even going to get into it, comes with a helicopter and gets the person off the edge of the cliff. Well, that's not dissimilar to what's happening in today's rescue society, where people will have emergency response vehicles with drones added to them. Hell, they're already looking at drone delivery vehicles. Mercedes had something for this back in the early 2000s when I was in college, utilizing drones to deliver products as it drives down the road. Well, why can't we use that for emergency response vehicles? How come we also can't use an Airspace X or Aeromobile? We could fly in and rescue them. These emergency rescue vehicles. Drones on their own would be good at locating people, but we need bigger drone technology to be able to fly in and get people out of impossible locations. Having a drone with winches set up to it attached to a standard vehicle will make it even easier to go deeper into the bush. Similar to how you bring your truck to go into the bush and you leave your dirt bike in the back to go even further into the bush. Because when you really want to hit that most amazing lake that's kilometers, like hundreds of kilometers way out in the middle of the bush, away from everywhere else, that's got the best fish you ever found, you need to get in there. And rescue people know this. But this isn't just going with rescue operations. Fire departments are now looking at vehicles like the Hyundai Elevate Ultimate Mobility Vehicle. This thing rides upon telescopic legs so that it can easily access any location. This is an emergency response vehicle that can fight fires in the middle of the bush by crawling over logs on an area where there is no pre-existing road. It can be utilized to traverse through deep snow, or hell, even make an emergency call to somebody who's up a flight of steps. If you see the images on our website about the Hyundai Elevate Ultimate Mobility Vehicle, you'll notice that there's one location in it where there are steps in front of it, similar to that of standard row housing you'll find near downtown New York City. If you've ever seen the movie Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, where he goes to his aunt and uncle's place that they're rebuilding, they have those higher up steps to get to. Well, instead of having park your ambulance on the street, pull out your stretcher and bring it all the way up the steps, these Ultimate Elevate vehicles, like I said, have telescopic legs so they can crawl, which means this vehicle can crawl the steps in the front of your house to get up to rescue you. You now don't have to go down the steps, which means it decreases the time for the emergency response vehicle to access your home. People can live more off-grid and be rescued by drones and crawling emergency vehicle. But it doesn't just end there. We can go even further. Flying motorcycles are already being utilized. Yes, flying police motorcycles are already being utilized in Dubai. Hell, Dubai has the money to buy anything. Hell, if you can have a Bugatti Veyron police car, I'm pretty sure you can have a flying motorcycle in your police fleet as well. They're utilizing this drone technology to showcase to the world that there is a future in aeronautical travel, even for police forces. Living close to a desert, the city of Dubai now has to traverse through these back areas. And having having vehicles running in the active sports car market, you now have to have police vehicles capable of keeping up with not only high-performance vehicles on tarmac, but high-performance vehicles on sand dune. And both of these are combined into one scale product. Active sports cars are now increasing the active lifestyle vehicle marketplace, where emergency response vehicles are now looking towards vehicles like the Ford Mustang Mach-E and the Lamborghini Urus within their fleets. They want these active sports car vehicles for select marketplaces like the deserts. Utilizing a Lamborghini Urus to fly off-road to be able to catch a Huracan Storado or 911 Dakar is a requirement. The Urus has higher ground clearance and a greater ability to traverse steeper inclines on sand dunes than a Storado or the 911 Dakar, which most people running from the cops wouldn't understand. But the rescue, the police force, understands this a lot more than the average person. Myself, not included. Seriously, if I'm going to run from the cops, I'm going to know what type of vehicle I need to have and where to go. Where most people just doing whatever vehicle they have. The use of flying motorcycles is for people who try and get away on standard motorcycles. Have you ever seen high-speed pursuits in the United States when it's involved with a motorcycle? Usually the police cars tend to back off and allow the helicopter to keep up with it. Unfortunately, the helicopter can't get low enough because it is too big and can cause too much damage to overhead wires and people around it. So it can only videotape where these people are and try and help the ground units locate them once they decide to ditch and move away from their motorcycle. Or something like a flying motorcycle, similar to that of the BMW flying motorcycle concept, can be utilized to maintain that speed with those people. And if they choose to go off-road, you choose to follow them. A flying motorcycle can be utilized to track down somebody who's on a dirt bike. This thing isn't just for the road, it's for the off-road. There was a time in the past where we all looked at, Rangers had to have these big-ass Broncos to go out in the middle of the bush to track down all these people. Now they can drive into the bush with their Ford Explorer until they get to a certain distance and can't go any further and use the drone technology to fly in, rescue the people, pull them out, and make it so that we can access fire trucks that are able to traverse into more secluded territories is another thing. If you haven't seen videos of this brand new fire truck that they're working on in China that can actually go up and over traffic with adjustable legs, going in or out or up or down, being able to lift itself to a third or fourth floor so you don't have to bring in a massive ladder truck. Utilizing drones to help put out fires on the side of buildings. You can have drones built into buildings in their emergency response systems. Whereas we started installing sprinkler systems as far back as the 1920s, but didn't become mandated until into the late 70s and early 80s, drones within the next 30 years are going to become a pivotal piece of machinery for emergency response, location, tracking, and even firefighting. Having drones with the ability to carry a small amount of water to be able to put out minor fires on the side of skyscrapers before they get out of hand will be a greater asset to our future cities. And allowing emergency crews to utilize flying motorcycles, volocopters, or hell, even utilizing heads-up display units which can be utilized to move and maintain the drones and other products in space. BMW a few years back had a heads-up display system for their motorcycle helmet. Great thing for motorcycles around the globe. That's something we all want because we don't want to keep looking down at our speedometer and all that. If we can have everything heads up along the sides, we could still see it as we're driving. Of course, if you ever experienced heads-up display, my wife has on a Cadillac and I've seen it firsthand, it can become distracting at some points. And eventually we're all just going to get used to it. Just like pop-up ads on the internet. We all got used to that shit too. But a heads-up display. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Sonic. Well, Robotnik has a digital suit that allows him to mobilize his drone army just with his hand. He can also utilize them with heads-up displays inside of his main base. A heads-up display helmet can help utilize these drones on site. Having that human interaction can help better the environment. Where if you've seen the movie I, Robot, there's a reason why Will Smith's character doesn't like robots. Because he states the robot saved him because he had a greater chance of survival than the child he was trying to save. A robot only looks at the percentage of who can be saved. Where a human, even with that slim chance of that child surviving, we would still go for it and utilize utilizing a heads-up display, be able to mobilize and utilize drone technology or autonomous technology vehicles or products to help fight fires, save people, or even catch criminals. Drastically increase our abilities for a better future in which we can all be rescued and saved in. In the world of tomorrow, and the world of being rescued in the world of tomorrow, drones and vehicles like the Jetson 1, the Land Rover Discovery emergency vehicle, and the Hyundai Elevate ultimate mobility vehicle will become more of an asset to rescue situations around the globe, where after which products like the Honda chair and even the Toyota stand-up chair can be utilized to get us around. Drones and volocopters are something that's becoming more commonplace in the world around us. We're starting to see how we can use these products to get from point A to point B, but there is also another avenue that can be used for. Sure, the transportation of goods and services is good. The transportation of people is good, but we also need to transport people when they are injured or hurt. We need to rescue people from being kidnapped. We need to bring down child trafficking around the globe. And we need the tools to help us do it better. Rescue vehicles like this will help us get there. Dedicated mountain rescue vehicle to help us go deeper into the bush will help us locate that lost person quicker, faster, and within a timeline that keeps them alive and us safe. Because the safety of not only ourselves as the rescuers has to be maintained as well as the rescuee. And from that standpoint, our rescue future can help transport us and keep us alive out of this world. Toyota is looking at rescue vehicle to try and help it invade us in the future. So drone technology is a big thing. Heads-up display, autonomous vehicle, artificial intelligence, they're all part of our rescue future product. But all those products will also help us build a future off this world. Because without knowing how to rescue people on our planet, we won't know how to move people and rescue them off planet. Where Toyota is already working on a fuel cell electric lunar rover, which can be utilized as both a base and a mobility unit for a future lunar landing by the Japanese Space Agency. This Toyota vehicle is not just our home on the moon. It's also the vehicle that gets us around the moon and keeps us safe on the moon. And that's what we all want to be, safe and secure, even in a vacuum. A rescue future is looking way better for all of us. And tons of companies around the globe are looking into it. They're looking at our mobility after we're hurt. They're looking at how to get us from being hurt. We're looking at how to rescue us, how to get us into the bush, how to get us out from the ocean. There are multiple catastrophic situations. And vehicles of the future that can both traverse land and sea are being seen as a viable option, where we lose time when we get out of our car to get into a boat. Having a vehicle that does all of that saves time and essentially gives life to the people we're trying to save. But in the end, one of the best rescue options that we have is a mobile home space on top of our vehicle and more secure kinetic moving seat. The old Lexus kinetic seats were developed a few years back at the Paris Auto Show. They were developed to showcase high-speed probability of how much stress is put on just the seat you sit in for your vehicle. And being able to show us how much stress is on the seat, we can build a better mousetrap, which in a sense, we can help rescue our futures before we even get there. So in the future, there's going to be multiple new avenues for rescue options. Sure, in the world of today, we still have fire trucks, police vehicles, and ambulances. But in the future, with more drones, autonomous, and artificial intelligence added into the mix, on top of telescopic and seaworthy, we'll be able to keep that rescue going, even when the trail runs out. And that is our biggest standpoint in the world of today. We are only able to go as far as our vehicle can take us. After that, we can only go as far as our feet can take us. Now, we need to go even further. We need something else to help us out. And if we learned anything from Paw Patrol, it's that new technology is amazing. And if a kid like Ryder can create drone technology on an emergency response vehicle, then why can't we do it with our own? That is a question for the future. So if you like this podcast, please like, share, or comment about it, and hit the like button at the bottom. See right down there, a little like button you can see on any of the social feeds you found this on, or the website, or even sign up for our email trail. You can find out about all the new stuff that's coming to the AutoLooks.net website and the AutoLooks podcast through signing up on either our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, hell, any of the social media feeds, the website, or even through any of the streaming services you have found the AutoLooks podcast on. The AutoLooks podcast is brought to you by Ecom Entertainment Group and distributed by Podbeam.com. If you'd like to get in touch with both Everett J and the AutoLooks podcast team, then email us at email@autolooks.net. So, for myself, Everett J, the AutoLooks.net website, and AutoLooks podcast, strap yourself in, keep yourself safe, as we look forward to a future where we get rescued faster and quicker than we have in the past. And strap yourself in for this one fun, wild ride that our amazing rescue future will take us on.